Hi guys, in this video we're going to have a little refresher on subtraction. So the way we do subtraction is we're going to use the column method. So just like when we were adding, I'm going to line up my hundreds, tens and units. So there's my hundreds, tens, units, hundreds, tens, units. Line them up underneath each other like so. I'm going to draw my line to separate out the question or my working from the answer. I'm just going to put a little subtraction there just to remind me to subtract. I've seen quite a few people in the exams over the few years actually add when doing this column method because I forget to do subtraction. So if you just do that little bit there, usually just reminds you that you are doing a subtraction. And we start from the right hand side. So 9 take away 3 gives me the 6. 6 take away the 1 is the 5. And 8 take away the 2 is the 6. So I have 656 for my answer. No different for this one. Write out the first number. So 8,134. Be careful, make sure we line up the hundreds, the tens and the units. So this is my hundreds column, this is my tens, and this is my units. Draw my line to separate it out. There's my minus to remind me to do a subtraction. And this is where people will go wrong again. When they start from over here, they go 4 take away 6 is 2. No, it isn't. Be careful. 4 take away 6 gives you minus 2, and you cannot go into negatives. The easy way to look at it, I always go, is I've got 4. I can't take away 6. I haven't got enough. Okay. Now, if you haven't got enough, or if you go into negatives, it's not a problem. What we do is we go over to the next column and we nick one. So instead of having that as a 3, I'm going to call it a 2, so I'm going to take one away from there, and I'm going to nick that one and bring it over to this column. So that now becomes 14. 14 take away 6 is an 8, so I can now do that one, that's fine. 2 take away 9, exactly the same thing. There's 2, I can't take away 9, I don't have enough, so I'm going to come over to this column and nick one from there. So that now becomes a 0, and the 1 goes over there, so that now becomes 12. 12 take away 9 is 3, so I can now do it. Happy days. 0 take away 4, again I can't do it. I've got nothing, I can't take away 4 from it. I'll go into negatives, so I'm going to come over to this one and nick 1 from that column. So that becomes a 7, and then that 1 goes over there to become a 10. 10 take away 4 is 6, and then 7 take away nothing is 7. So I'm left with my answer of 7,638. Okay, let's have a look at a few more. Decimals, just like when we were adding, make sure your decimals line up. It's like an extra little check that you can do. So there's my 32.8 and then 7 points. So my decimals must line up. 7, 6 like so. And again, I'm subtracting. Now, what I always do, not so important with addition, but it's definitely worth doing when doing subtraction, is when you have a gap at the back here, add the 0. Okay, because so many people will put 6 down here, and that's wrong. Because if you put the 0 in here and you try and do 0 take away 6, again you'll end up in negatives, which can't happen. So I'm going to come over to this column here, the next column, and I'm going to nick 1 from there. So that now becomes a 7, and the 1 comes over to make that a 10. 10 take away 6 is the 4. Happy days, I can now do it. 7 take away 7 gives me 0. You can have a 0, that's not a problem. Decimal point. 2 take away 7, again I can't do it, I'll hit negatives. So I'm going to nick 1 from the next column. So that 3 becomes a 2. The 1 gets carried over. And then 12 take away 7 gives me a 5, and 2 take away nothing is 2. So I'm left with the answer of 25.04. Okay, let's have a little look at this one then. So similar again, it's just a slightly bigger number. Take away a slightly smaller number, just so we can practice lining it up correctly. So I've got my 975.2, and I'm going to take away 6 points. So I get my decimal points lined up. 1, 8. And again, I'm taking away. I'm going to fill in the 0 to help me so I don't make any silly mistakes. 0 take away 8, can't be done, I'll end up with a negative. So I'm going to nick 1 from this column. So that 2 becomes a 1, and the one I nicked makes the 0 a 10. 10 take away 8 is 2. 1 take away 1 is 0, that's not a problem. Decimal point. 5 take away 6. Again, I can't do it, I don't have enough, I'll go into negatives. So I'm going to nick 1 from the 7, call that a 6. And that nicked 1 comes over to make that a 15. 15 take away 6 will leave me with 9. 6 take away nothing is 6. 9 take away nothing is 9. So I'm left with the answer of 969.02. So that's how we use the column method. A few things to watch out for. Make sure we line it up correctly. If you can't do the calculation, just nick 1 from the next column. And make sure you obviously line up the decimal points. And make sure you don't accidentally add these, which I've seen before. Now I've got 2 more examples just to show you, just to illustrate something that can happen and not to worry about it. So this one here, let's set it up. So 5,702, and I'm going to take away 1,237. There's my line and take away. So just like before, I start from the right-hand side and I do 2 take away 7, which I can't do. I get a minus number, I get minus 5. Okay. And I want to nick 1 from the next column. However, it's already a 0. So if it's a 0, and therefore you can't nick 1, not a problem. Just go to the next column and nick 1 from there. So that 7 will become a 6, and I can bring that 1 over there, so that becomes a 10. Now, going back to the start, I still can't do take away 7, but what I can do is now nick 1 from this column. So this is a 10, because I changed it. So I can cross that 10 out, and that now becomes a 9, and then that nicked 1 can come over here to make this a 12. 12 take away 7 leaves me with a 5. 9 take away 3 leaves me with a 6. 6 take away 2 leaves me with a 4. And 5 take away 1 leaves me with a 4. So you have the answer of 4,465. So that's just something to bear in mind. And I'm now going to take it to the absolute extreme. And if you do the exam questions or see some exam questions, very similar this comes up, where you've got something like £20 and you've got to take away something. I've just picked a number here of 13.48. So let's give this a go using the column method. So here's my £20, lining it up properly. There's my tens, my units, decimal point, and then 4 and 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the decimal point in for the 20 and add 2 zeros to make this a bit easier. Taking away, and there's my line there. So this is an extreme case. So we've got 0 take away 8, I can't do it. So I look to the next column. 0, can't nick 1 from there. I can't nick 1 from there. So I keep going to the very end where that's a 2. Now I can nick 1 from the 2. So that 2 becomes a 1. And the nicked 1 goes to the next column before it. So that becomes a 10. I'm going to nick 1 again, so that becomes a 9, and bring it over to this one. So this now becomes a 10. But again, I still need 1 for my first column, so I'm going to cross that out, call it a 9, and then I can nick it for my very first column, which is what I wanted initially. So this now becomes a 10. 10 take away 8 is 2. 9 take away 4 is 5. Decimal point. 9 take away 3 is 6. 1 take away 1 leaves me with nothing. So I'm left with the answer of £6.52 for this particular case. Okay, so don't worry if you can't borrow 1 from the columns. Just keep going until you can and then work backwards. So it's just a bit of an extreme case there to do it. Obviously, you might want to see what you add to get to 1348, to get to 20, and do subtraction that way. But if you're using the column method, that's how you do it. Hopefully that helps, guys. Thanks for watching.